disciples published belonged to their masters. That's very clear evidence of who the authors of the four Gospels are. Tertullian 207 AD says, we lay it down as our first position that the Evangelical Testament has apostles for its authors, to whom was assigned by the Lord himself his office of publishing the Gospel of the apostles. Therefore John and Matthew first instill faith into us, while apostolic men, Luke and Mark, renew it afterwards. These all start with the same principles of faith, so far as relates to the one and only God, the creator of his Christ, how that he was born of the Virgin, and came to fulfill the law and the prophets. Against Marcion 4:2. By 180 AD, we have Irenaeus says, an early church father says, Matthias also issued a written gospel among the Hebrews in their own dialect, while Peter and Paul were preaching at Rome and laying the foundations of the church. After their departure, Mark, the disciple and interpreter of Peter, did also hand down to us in writing what had been preached by Peter. Luke also, the companion of Paul, recorded in the book the gospel preached by him. Afterwards John, the disciple of the Lord, who also had leaned upon his breast, did himself publish a gospel during his residence at Ephesus in Asia. Against heresies 3:1:1. Then we have the Muratorian fragment from 175 to 200 AD. From the Muratorian fragment we read these words. The third book of the Gospel, that according to Luke, the well-known physician, Luke wrote in his own name in order after the ascension of Christ, when Paul had associated with him himself as one studious of right, nor did he himself see the Lord in the flesh, and he, according as he was able to accomplish it, began his narrative with the nativity of John. The fourth Gospel is that of John, one of the disciples. When his fellow disciples and bishops entreated him, he said, fast ye now with me for the space of 3 days, and let us recount of each other what may be revealed to each other. On the same night it was revealed to Andrew, one of the apostles, that John should narrate all things in his own name, as they called him to mind. And you could go on, there's more about, but scholars will tell you that even though two of the Gospels have mentioned Luke and John, it says the third book, the fourth Gospel, and we've only had partial fragments of this document, and so it's very clear that you conclude there would have been a first and a second book, and so we have the fragment missing concerning Mark and Matthew. But again, this is very strong historical evidence for the authorship of the four Gospels, because here it's mentioning the Gospel of John and the Gospel of Luke. Then we have 165 to 180 AD, the Diatessaron. This is a harmony of the four Gospels, a very important piece of information. In the Diatessaron, chapter 1, verse 1 to 5, it quotes John 1:1-5. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God is the Word. This was in the beginning with God. Everything was by his hand. Without him not even one existing thing was made. In him was life, and the life is the light of men, and the light shineth in the darkness. The Diatessaron in chapter 2, 1-8 quotes Matthew chapter 1, verse 18 to 25. It says, now the birth of Jesus the Messiah was on this wise. In the time when his mother was given in marriage to Joseph, before they came together, she was found with child of the Holy Spirit. And Joseph, her husband, was a just man, and did not wish to expose her, and he proposed to put her away secretly. But when he thought of this, the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a dream, and said unto him, Joseph, son of David, fear not to take Mary thy wife, for that which is begotten in her is of the Holy Spirit. She shall bear a son, thou shalt call his name Jesus, and he shall save his people from their sins. All this was that saying from the Lord by the prophet might be fulfilled. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, They shall call his name Emmanuel, which is being interpreted, with us is our God. When Joseph arose from his sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him, and took his wife, and knew her not, until she brought forth her firstborn. Diatessaron chapter 2 verse 9 to 28 quotes Luke chapter 2 verse 1 to 20. And in those days there went from a decree of Caesar that all